Yo, Buggy might actually have Conqueror's haki. Now, One Piece chapter 1082, a lot of things happen in this chapter regarding cross guild. And again, when it comes to cross guild and its implementation into the story, I think it's one of the best things that Oda has came up with in the entirety of the post time skip, because it just makes the story a lot more interesting. The concept of cross guild is honestly one of my favorite ideas, concepts that Oda has introduced in the story, because the implication of cross guild, and we're seeing the implications of what is happening to the Marines now, right? And it's funny because Buggy is the middle figure in all of this, so that makes for a very interesting chain of events, because again, Buggy has been a huge part of the story, not in a serious tone but for more comedic aspects. And we're seeing that Buggy, even though he started out as a joke character, we're seeing his elevation into becoming one of the more legendary figures in the story. So Buggy's rise to fame is actually one of the more interesting but also funny ones that we've seen, because this man might actually make it to become the Pirate King, or at least he's going to be in a position where he's going to be very close to it, and I think that's going to happen for sure later on in the story. But before I keep going, guys, I'd appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video, subscribe if you're new here, and hit the bell if you want to get notified for more content on this channel. First things first, cross guild. One of the aspects that I really like about cross guild is that it puts the Marines in the main light, because one of the issues we have with the Marines in the story is that they're not really shown that much. There's not that huge of an emphasis on the Marines more so than pirates, right? And so when it comes to the Marine side of things, we're usually in the dark when it comes to the subtlety. But in this chapter, we're starting to see things change for the worse for them. We're starting to see the effect that this has on the Marines. And in this chapter in particular, we learned that TBone was actually killed by civilians. And Tsuru and Sengoku are thinking to themselves what the world is coming to, because now they have to save people that could potentially backstab them later on. And that's so demotivating for the Marines, because that's the whole purpose of becoming a Marine, right? Is to protect civilians and protect innocent people. But the fact that this is happening to them, where Marines are turning their backs on them to get money, is insane. And if they don't do anything quickly to solve this problem, it could turn into a whole different issue. Because once the general public starts to realize that you can make money off of this, and it's actually possible, especially given what happened to TBone in this chapter, it's going to spread like fire, and ultimately it's going to lower the morale of the Marines, because now the people that you're trying to protect are the people that are going to backstab you at some point. So this is something that could kill the Navy if they don't act fast. And even Tsuru talks about how it's not just pirates that are interesting, so it's natural that normal people would come for them because there's money involved. And we know that in the One Piece world, there's a lot of poverty, slavery, all sorts of things going on. It's expected that these things will happen because people adapt to the environment and will do whatever it takes to maintain. And even the supposed guy that we see here, he talks about how this is better than him watching his family die from starvation, even though he will never see them again. So cross guild is essentially making the civilians turn against the Marines, and this more than likely will keep happening because some people don't really care about the Marines because of their predicament. And this in some sense is also bolstering the numbers of the individuals within cross guild, because the people that bring these people in are joining Buggy, so it's also increasing his numbers. I will say that Buggy's rise to fame has definitely been one of the more fascinating ones we've ever seen in the story. Now, something that's a bit weird here is that TBone is a vice admiral at this point. We know that he was a captain 2 years when he fought Zoro, and then he was later on promoted to rear admiral not long ago, and then now he's a vice admiral. So he must have been very powerful. But the fact that this guy, this shriveled up old guy, was able to take him down is kind of suspect, and so it raises the question as to what actually happened. Now, they said that the Marines didn't actually go into detail, but I think something definitely happened, and maybe TBone could have sacrificed himself for this guy's family to survive, because he's just that good of a person. Like, we might see some Marines actually sacrifice themselves to the public, right? Because they want to help the civilians, and that's the whole purpose during the Marines. So we might see individuals like TBone actually do this so that these civilians may have a better life. So this is insane. Like, the implication that cross guild has brought into this story is honestly game changing, and that's why I like this concept so much, because this situation would put the Marines in a more proactive setting than they've ever been, because now it's just not pirates, it's also normal people that are willing to do anything to survive. Now, moving on to Buggy's side of things. Now, here we get more characterization for Buggy. We sort of knew what type of person he was, but this chapter definitely bumps him up in terms of character a little bit more than what he was. because here Crocodile and Mihawk are discussing on how to fulfill their plans, and essentially what they're going to need is a lot of wealth because they're going to need military might, and to have military might you need money. And Buggy tells them like what you're looking for is right in front of you. And just like Roger, Buggy also wanted to become the Pirate King as well, to follow in the footsteps of his captain. But again, once he saw Shanks's potential within the Pirate King's crew and how Shanks was this bright light, he knew that he couldn't measure up, and so he let go of that dream. But then it is also revealed that Shanks at that point in time said that that's not his current dream, but he's still going to be a pirate. And so this took Buggy by surprise, because now this is telling us that Shanks' initial dream was not to become the Pirate King, but something else, which we kind of figured based on certain things in the story. But again, given this change that he saw within Shanks, it seems like he had the motivation to become the Pirate King again. And so this is how he embarked on his journey once again. And of course, to become the Pirate King, you would have to claim the One Piece. And so he's telling Crocodile and Mihawk here that screw all these other things. Let's go for what everyone's aiming and the biggest source of wealth and power in the entire story. Let's go for the One Piece. And even though this didn't really faze Mihawk and Crocodile, I think in some sense it did also resonate with them, because again, we have to remember that all these characters were at Roger's execution for a reason. And it seems like that was a motivating factor as to why they sailed the seas in the first place. Roger's execution was the origin point as to why everyone decided to get what they wanted. And even though people might have deviated, it seems that everything is still tied to the One Piece. The desire to attain what they wanted was inevitably correlated to the One Piece. And honestly, this was very surprising coming from Buggy, because again, even though he's a joke comedic character, when he has moments like this, it's crazy, but it also shows the experiences that he went through. It wasn't for nothing, and that he did gain something from that. Like, this was extremely motivating coming from Buggy, and I think in some sense it did resonate with Crocodile and Mihawk here. And it does seem that time and time again, Buggy will continue to rise and potentially might become the Pirate King. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if Buggy has Conqueror's haki. The dude just showed that he has the potential to have it with this speech he had here. So again, I think Buggy in the future, we're going to see a Conqueror's haki moment with him. But again, when it comes to Cross Guild, Buggy, Mihawk, and Crocodile, this is honestly some of the best things I've seen in One Piece, because these characters interacting together is just insane and evokes some of the most unique interaction and dynamic that we've seen in the entire story. And Cross Guild will only get bigger from now on. Now, moving towards the end of the chapter, we finally come to some Reverie stuff that we've been waiting for a very long time. But obviously this part here is a tease to what is to come. But here we come to see the arrival of Sabo, and it turns out that he's safe from whatever happened in Lelouchia, and he has a lot of intel to tell us. And again, just as we expected, Sabo wasn't actually on Lelouchia when it happened. And it does seem that Sabo did come with some of the Lelouchia inhabitants or civilians, and obviously they're here to join the Revolutionary Army, which is interesting because I remember Bello Betsy saying that they should give them a call, right? So that could be foreshadowing to some extent. And we do also see some of the vice captains of the army. And again, these are characters that we have actually seen before, but before they seem more like fodder than anything, but in this chapter they seem more official. I don't know if it was the title box or they got a design upgrade, but we do also see other prominent revolutionary members, specifically the vice captains of each army. Now, it seems that we're finally about to get what happened during the Reverie, because this is something that has been building up for a long time, ever since the Reverie happened almost 200 chapters ago. We still don't have the full picture, and I think we didn't have the full picture because of the characters involved, because these characters are endgame, right? Imu-sama is endgame, the Gorosei, these are all technically endgame reveals, right? And again, this information that Sabo is about to tell Dragon and Ivankov is so insane, because just hearing it might put you at risk. And I do wonder, after all of this, what is Dragon's move? Because he's a character that a lot of people want to see what he does next, or at least become more proactive in the story. So hopefully we do actually get answers here as to what happened at Maridjoa, because this is definitely due, and we do need to see the revolutionaries finally make a move. But we can definitely expect great things coming out of this for the story. But that is pretty much it for this video, guys. I'd appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video, comment down below what you guys think, subscribe if you're new here, and hit the bell if you want to get notified for more content on this channel. You can follow me on Twitter at Ferrospace, but it is Ferro, guys, and I will see you folks later. Peace.